So you've had a few things drop today. You've had the Frico, the Carla Del Forno, Portrayal of Guilt and Roman Candle and Angeline de Augustine albums. Albums you may enjoy more than I did, but I always knew it was going to be this today. Alright, it's me, I'm back again, and just want to draw your attention to the new album by Gia Margaret called Singing. I've been listening to this soft, lo-fi, chill Chicago songwriter on and off since she released Birthday back in 2018, and so I'm really glad to be reunited with her music today. What's on the menu today? What, Warner Child? We got 12 tracks for you, technically 9, running at 40 minutes. Starting with track 1, Everyone Around Me Dancing. Love it. Mentioned it in my end of the month video in February. It's one of my favourite songs of the year, and it's the reason I'm here today, with Gia's ethereal, hushed vocals and some lush, breathy, distant horns and pretty keys and chilled drums. You might think I was talking about the Rostam album or American football, a format you will hear me mention all across this review. It's a classic example. If you like this track, you will like the album. It's truly a beautiful song. Not that it's a surprise. Her whole discography has been like this, just a chilled out soul making music, and it's as painful for her as it is for us to have waited so long for her to be behind the mic this much after losing her voice. And even though we got glimpses of it in 2023, this is the most we've had in ages. Following that, we got track 2, Cellular Reverse. It's hard to say, isn't it? Again, we're sticking with the minimal, sparse, distant horns side of things on this one. Like I said, if you need a warning to be in the mood for this style, you will soon notice that if this is your first time hearing, that this is the whole vibe of this album. It's a nice, lush piano leading things along, taking me back to last spring when I had the Wet album on loop. Gia sings a bit less hushed at the start of this track, which is a joy to hear her stronger voice after so long, and there's a male voice under her harmonies, which I think is the guitarist of the band. Zoomers seem to have an issue with albums that sound the same throughout, and possibly a byproduct of being in a playlist world, but forgetting what an album is actually meant to be really. But I love it, and when the vibes are this good, you don't really want to massively switch it up. I guess it's because we remember the before tech, where you just had to sit with things for ages. Maybe it's just me. Up next, we got track 3, Alive Inside. It's the last single we got for the album, some minimal, ethereal, but stretched auto-tune Imogen Heap kind of vibes on this one, with that vocal effect and a cool reverse sounding synth and a slow plodding beat with a sort of triangle sound dinging at every bar. Makes it sound almost Christmassy. It's got some really nice overlapped vocals, which I would have liked a lot more of on the album to lose myself in. As the track progresses, we get more instruments introduced, like a harp, I think. It's definitely grown on me since I first heard it. After that, we've got track 4, Moon Not Mine. I love how close and soft Gia's vocals are on this, with the acoustic guitar picking under some lovely harmonies. That's all it is and all it needs to be in a world of C. Rose and Ethel Caines. Tracks like this get a lot of spins for me in this chaotic world, with a complimentary little flute thrown in for good measure. I'm a sucker for fret climbing, connecting parts, and it's a very vocal driven track, this one, that builds to have a more involved sort of bit crushed beat that for variety I kind of wish they'd have gone a little further with it intensity wise, and would have happily taken 20 tracks like this one. It's a good track. And then we have track 5, Rotten. That's the title. Now, it feels appropriate to mention the absolute pristine production on display. The quality of this album showcased perfectly on this track. Again, nice acoustic guitar and some drums that sound like they're in the back of a shed, and some strings that help you to drift along. as it all starts to fill the space around you. This album plays well with clarity and dreaminess transitions really well. And yes, Gia does all the production and has a really great ear, and this track is far from rotten. Up next, track 6, Rotten Outro. The first instrumental on the album, so nothing to see here. And then we have track 7, Good Friend, the second of the singles, and a very obvious one compared to the rest of the album. It almost sounds like it's from another project or session altogether. I thought I was listening to the Clairo album for a second with its clear, punchy drums and funky bass lines. It will wake up and maybe draw in some different listeners, or it might stick out from the rest of the vibes on the album like it did for me a bit. But at least Gia isn't singing that differently on it, except for the super groovy do-do-dos, and the male voice is there again for a contrast, and hope it's the guitarist. And I'm glad that this really is the only track that's like this musically on the album, for me, to be honest. After that, we got track 8, Phenomenon. After that, we got track 8, Phenomenon. This might be my favourite from today. It's got a nice staggered, echoey vibe throughout, with a nice deep sub bass and a lovely warm synth in the middle that would be a great pairing with the Art School Girlfriend album that's dominated my 2026 so far, or maybe something like Tycho from back in the 2010s. It's got a wall of soft vocals. It's just big vibes on this one. A stunning track. Up next is track 9, Ambient for Ichiko. Sadly, another pleasant, longer instrumental that might be nice to play on stage whilst they're tuning their guitars, but otherwise nothing to see here. Following that, we've got track 10, Phone Screen. Guess what? It's another very dreamy, slow track with distant drums and a deep sub bass and lovely synths, but with a really satisfying ringtone sound throughout that makes me feel I'm next to a pond of psychedelic frogs. Or I guess it reminded me of the Erica de Casilla album that had a ringtone on it as well. And the drums come in clearer and we get some really nice sliding guitars, and again it's very trippy and woozy, this one, and not sure why it ends with a terrible AOL modem sound for a song about phones though, but there you go, that's the price you pay not having the lyrics on release day. But after that, we've got track 11, Guitar Duo. There's been some occasional moments on this album where a synth or a drum woven into this reminded me of Boards of Canada, etc. But this track is full on Bibio. I don't know if Gia listens to Bibio or Boards or Tycho, but it's another lovely instrumental, sadly. It's sweet with some lush, twinkling keys, and it's probably my favourite of the 3 tracks, but still, we move on to the last song of the album. And here we have it, track 12, E-Motion. The Imogen Heap vocal effect is back for this final low-key track, and it's got a really nice melody, and we even get a cheeky little sax, and it kind of climaxes with some ride cymbal drums and a distorted guitar, which I would have liked to have left with like an explosive I've returned moment, but still, nice end to the album. So yeah, that's it. I would have preferred 0 instrumentals on an album called Singing, but the songs on here that I like, I absolutely love. And that is why it is my album of the week. So yeah, check it out. If you love gentle, low-key, soft music like I do, and you've somehow not heard of Gia Margaret yet, now is the time to catch up, especially during a pretty spring day. Get the album on. It's been a weird month again, but I'm glad I got one in at the finish line, and I'll see you next week for the end of the month video where I'll try to fill in some gaps. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go and have one of my first swims of the year, I think, if the water's warm enough. Ciao. Oh, you can see, I can feel so. I don't know if they can see it, but if you can see it, you can have it.